Hello, Chill Computer Guy. Welcome to the Bitwig studio. We have the 3.2. It's in beta. It's a beta, so none of this is official. We have a few new devices. I'll talk about those a little bit. Right here, you can see all three of the new devices. We got the arpeggiator. We got the EQ Plus, which I renamed the EQ8, and then we have the saturator. And the saturator's pretty cool because you can affect the kind of the high end of the sound, or bring up quiet sounds and bring down louder sounds. So it's a very kind of a dynamic kind of saturator. Pretty cool. And this EQ here is probably well, it's a really good EQ. It's probably my go-to now. The old EQ5, I wasn't the biggest fan of. It was a basic EQ. It did basic stuff. But this one right here, you can throw this on a track and really get that track really fitting in with the mix. It's a very intuitive and easy to use, and you can get to where you need to go very quickly with this EQ. So I'm a huge fan of that. And then we have the arpeggiator. The old arpeggiator was, it was a little bit useless. The old one, because you couldn't affect the pitch, and that's kind of the main thing with arpeggios is you want to kind of modulate the pitch through each step. The old one you could only do the gate and the velocity, so there's not a lot you can do with that. But the new one you can affect the pitch of each note. Very cool. And you also bring this down into milliseconds, instead of on the beat, so you can kind of get some broken beat stuff going on. What we're looking at is a couple of things today. We have a drum loop here. This is a drum loop that I built. I basically programmed this drum loop, and we have it looped up. It's basically looped up into one bar. And so if you play this, pretty cool. But what I like about this is if you make, like, let's say a 4-bar loop in this case, you take a 1-loop marker and you kind of move it around, you can get a lot of interest. If we take this all the way down to the end, for example, you're going to get that kind of double hi-hat now. So let's play that. For me, I really like just writing my drum patterns and then just kind of like finding the hook within there. Of course, if you put a kick drum on every quarter note, you're kind of doing the EDM dance, the doom doom doom. You can anchor everything to that 4 on the floor and whatnot. But if you just put a beat on the 1 and the 3, and then the 2 and the 4 create variation, you'll create more of a kind of a hip hop type beat. And so that's usually kind of what I do. I throw that in, and then I really like to put the quarter note hi hat or the quarter note ride cymbal. I'm a huge fan of the ride cymbal. So that's basically what we got going on here. But for me, something I've been doing lately that has really added a lot of kind of dynamic, kind of swing, kind of groove is taking, in this case, it's a drum loop. It's the Baker Brothers drum loop. It's some really good drum loops. Check out Baker Brothers 3 on Splice. I believe it's a sample pack you can get just about anywhere. I'll leave a link in the description. There it is right there. I love this sample pack. It's really great as far as, the drum grooves in it, or the drum loops rather, are really well recorded and really authentic and kind of give that, that nice little swing kind of thing going. So what I've done is I've taken the loop that I basically drew in myself, and I've combined it with the Baker Brothers loop. And so you get kind of a cool vibe. Let's go ahead and loop this clip here. And what we have here is we have the full 4-bar loop, the one that I wrote, the one that I kind of plugged in, I kind of drew this beat in. And we also have the full Baker Brothers loop, which is 2 bars. And so if we play just one of these, just the beat that I wrote here, let's go ahead and play that. We'll get kind of a vibe of what's going on. That's the 4-bar loop that I wrote earlier, but then let's listen to just the Baker Brothers loop by itself. Now the magic happens when you play both of them together. Basically the thickness and the room sound and the vibe, if you will, of the Baker Brothers loop, and then the kind of, I don't want to say backbeat, but the real skeletal structure of the the computerized beat that I drew in using the MIDI grid that is right on the grid, same velocity, same everything. When we play them both together, you really get an interesting full sound. 4-bar loop that I plugged in myself has some variation there. Let's go ahead and play those together. And again, what we've done is we've basically cropped these into 1-bar loops. And so there's this is actually, which is great, because what you get is you get the a broken beat, I call it, but it's a staggered beat. What is that? I'm trying to think of the term. I don't know. I can't think of the term right now. Let's go ahead and just play these two loops together, and you'll see that you get to kind of an offset there that occurs, and it kind of gives it a cool feel, in my opinion. So that's just kind of like a thing to add a little flavor in. So right here we have the 1-bar loop, and this is the 1-bar, and then this is the 2-bar, the full Baker Brothers loop. So this, as you can see, is 2 bars long, and then I have the 1-bar slice. So I'm going to go ahead and play this real quick, and you'll kind of hear that we get an interesting vibe going when we play this with the entire 2-bar Baker Brothers loop here. Let's go ahead and play this. Just a great sounding groove, really well recorded. You got a lot of, I don't know if it's reverb or just a lot of natural room sound in there, so it sounds very full, very big. So as you can hear, it's a good beat. I'm happy with this beat. I haven't added any shuffle, any humanize. I haven't messed with any velocities. So it's all very static, very on the grid, very stiff, if you will. And again, I have not added any shuffle or any kind of variation, humanizing or anything like that. If I add some shuffle to the MIDI beat that I drew in, it doesn't quite work. So let's go ahead and turn the shuffle on. Of course, in Bitwig Studio, unfortunately, you cannot add shuffle to audio yet. You can try, slicing it up at the transients and shifting it around that way, but it just doesn't sound good. As far as adding a shuffle or a groove to audio, you can't quite do that in Bitwig Studio yet. So when I turn the shuffle on, it's only going to affect the MIDI notes, but in my opinion, it doesn't really work with the shuffle. Let's go ahead and listen to that. So yeah, like I say, the shuffle doesn't really work with that, but with the straight beat, it really works well. All right, so what I did is I basically took those same two loops, because they fit so well together and they really kind of complement each other, and I basically looped different regions here. So if you look at this first one here, I looped just the 1-bar. So I just looped 1-bar of the MIDI pattern, and then I did the full 2-bar, or 1-bar rather. I did the full 1-bar of the Baker Brothers loop. So let's go ahead and listen to that, and you'll see there's less variation in the MIDI pattern, but I think it still works really well together. Again, a much more stable beat, maybe for, a verse or something where you don't want so much busyness going on. And then next to that, I did the 1-bar loop, the same 1-bar loop of the MIDI, but then I did that's crazy, of the Baker Brothers. And so what I did is I moved the loop marker around, and this is really great to do this in Bitwig Studio, is take your audio in this beautiful audio editor and just move your loop marker around, and you can go off the grid. If you hold shift, you can get off the grid and just stretch it out to 1-bar or 1.2, and then you get like a broken beat or an offset or a God, what is that called? I can't think of the term. Not syncopation. I'll think of the term. I'll put it in big letters on the screen in red and zoom it out. By taking that extra, a quarter note at the end, you get that offset that occurs. And so that's what I did here with this sec. Basically cropped the Baker Brothers down. Let's listen to that. It's pretty interesting. Now you can hear the real staple of that beat, in my opinion, is that open hi-hat, because that open hi-hat kind of floats around. That's where you really can sense that broken beat. But very, very strange, very unique rhythm to that. And in my opinion, you add a little bass line to that, and you add some stuff to that, and you're really gonna get something that's unique, something that's different, something that's your style and whatnot. Next to that, what we did is we did the normal 4-bar MIDI loop. Again, with no shuffle, no humanize, no nothing. And then we did the full Baker Brothers loop, which we already played that one a second ago. But that's pretty much what we got going, is the full of each loop there. We already heard that one. And then next up, what we have is that we had in the second arrangement, but then what we did is we took the 1-bar section of the MIDI pattern, but the very last section. Now the unique thing about the last section of this MIDI pattern is you have that double open hi-hat. Very, very, very unique, I just love the groove of that double on the hi-hat. And so what we're gonna do is play those two together with that double open hi-hat. Again, we got an extra there on the end, so check this out. Pretty cool. And again, this bass line we just threw together right here. This is an arpeggio. This is using the new arpeggio here in Bitwig Studio 3.2 beta. And we're using that kind of that pitch. We're changing the pitch of each note. Something we couldn't do in the past, but we can do with the new 3.2 beta right now. So that's a very exciting thing. Now also you can see I use the micro pitch editor in this case. You just click down here, you get the micro pitch editor. And so instead of just going from one note to the next, I slid into the next note with an arpeggio. So you get kind of a cool vibe. I don't know if this bass line really fits with the beat, but like I say, I just threw it in real quick just to give you kind of some context of what's going on with the new arpeggio there. So we're going to go ahead and play this bass loop, which I say is an arpeggiated loop with those bars we just listened to there. Let's listen to that. Yeah, I don't know. That bass line's pretty gross. Another great thing about this particular arrangement or this track is all Bitwig devices. All Bitwig devices on this particular track. Let's go ahead and take you through. We have the new arpeggio, which we can adjust the pitch, of course. We have the new this is the old polysynth, but not much going on, just same old polysynth there. And then we have the new EQ Plus, and we also have the saturator. Very cool stuff. Let's go ahead and solo this so you can kind of hear what's going on. I mean, this is a completely crazy EQ curve, but like I said, I threw this together real quick just to kind of get some new devices on the timeline in the arranger and just kind of start messing with some ideas. And then also you notice this little note latch. What I like doing with arpeggios is using the note latch, because what you can do is you can just put a single note in like so. It's just that single note, right? You stretch that out to, it's just a 1-bar loop. It's just going to go around and around. But what you can do is you can turn that note latch on. You know, make it a 1/64th note if you want. That'll get the arpeggio rolling. It's basically a trigger for the arpeggio, and then have the arpeggio take care of everything. Just like this. Check it out. Yeah, the new EQ is unbelievable. I really like the new EQ. Also the saturator, which looks like this, very, very simple, but it opens up. This is a really good way to affect your kind of higher end of the frequency spectrum. The air distortion kind of works in the lower end, in my opinion, and the saturator works more on the higher end. What's great about this particular saturator is you can bring the quiet up quite loud. If you hear, let's go ahead and turn this off here, the arpeggio off. You can hear, if I turn the noise up, you can really hear the noise way louder because it is quiet. You can hear it way louder in the signal chain. Again, that's all Bitwig default devices. Very cool. And then we have the drum groove again. All Bitwig devices. Look at that. Again, we got this crazy EQ curve here. Let's go ahead and listen to that by itself. See what we got. Also, we now have return tracks just for the drum cube. Very cool. I've been wanting this for a while. That way I can kind of put my drum bus kind of out in left field, get it just right, and then add the instruments to it. Yeah, the send and returns. Now, if you go to the mix, you can see it just basically adds it to the drum bus, if you will, and then you can adjust it like a normal send and return. It just basically includes it in the drum bus. You know, for organizational purposes, that's pretty nice. I really like that. Very similar to that other Ableton, I believe it's called. And then of course we have the Baker Brothers loop again. All Bitwig devices. Yeah, so that's what we got going on. Also, a quick little thing I wanted to talk about was if we click on this master chain, we have the L2 in here. Okay, the L2, of course, not a Bitwig device, but you can see it's bypassed. And what we're going to do is we're going to play this through the normal Bitwig limiter. Actually, we're going to start with the L2. We're going to play this through the L2 on the master bus, and then we're going to switch it over to the normal Bitwig default limiter. And you can hear they're very, very similar aesthetic to both of them. We have them both set the exact same. 8.0 on the threshold or the input. The release is 1 second on both, and then the ceiling is 1.2 on both. So exact same settings. Let's go ahead and listen to the L2 here. All right, now let's listen to the Bitwig default limiter. Very cool. Yeah, you can hear that that limiter, which I've always just put the L2 on, but yeah, the Bitwig limiter is actually pretty darn good. Limiter. Another thing, just real quick before we pull the plug on this one, is with this arpeggio. If you look at this this arrangement again that I have over here, that bass loop, of course, is an arpeggio, which I'm not big a fan of this bass loop. I don't really like it. I'm probably gonna dump it and work with something else. I actually like this without the arpeggio. That's a pretty good sound. Maybe add some movement to the notes there. But what I'm going to do is bring this down to 7, or up, I should say, from 6 steps to 7 steps. And again, you're going to get that polyrhythm. Polyrhythm, that's what it's called, a polyrhythm going on. And of course, you also have a polyrhythm here on the 1.2. So I'm actually going to move this over. I'm going to move this over so there's not too much polyrhythm stuff going on. So we have the full MIDI loop, and then so we have the full MIDI loop. We also have the full Baker Brothers audio loop, and then we have the bass line with the arpeggio, 7 steps. So we're going to get that offset. Let's listen to that real quick. Bring it down an octave. There, we'll bring it up a 5th. Anyway, that bass line's not gonna. That bass line's gotta go. But it kind of proves the point with the new arpeggio. Again, that's it. That's all I got right here. Chill Computer Guy. Please subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up. Comment down below. We're gonna have more videos, deep dives, if you will, on some of the new devices. We also have a couple new modulators, a couple new devices in the grid as well. So be sure to subscribe. Don't miss those videos, and we'll see you guys again. Bye bye now.